This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com. This show is brought to you by IndyWrestling.us. Check out IWC, RWA, and more. And listeners like you, support this show at patreon.com/Wrestling Mayhem Show.
Hungry as fuck, but I ain't starving yet. Chain for the pain, cocktail dog set. Never said I was a gangster or thug, but I'm an animal. Feeding for the taste of the floor.
Hey guys, it is the Indie Mayhem Show. I'm Mike Sorg at Sorgatron on the Twitter here in the Sorgatron Media Studios in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And this is the show where we talk to people in and around independent professional wrestling. I have a lot of great conversations with people over the years here. Of course, you can check out all the past interviews at IndyWrestling.us. In a lot of cases, a lot of people we talk to on the show are represented there as well, and I encourage you to support them in any way you can. And also over at WrestlingMayhemShow.com. You can drop us a line over at goodtimes@WrestlingMayhemShow.com or 412-206-WMS0 if you have any questions for any of the scheduled guests we have coming up. Please check the Facebook events pages for Indie Wrestling and Wrestling Mayhem Show to see who is coming up. Or if you have any suggestions for people that we should be chatting with on the show, we definitely have had people on, and actually these guys have been recommended to me several times over the years, and we've been trying to get them here in the studio in Pittsburgh, but they're Cleveland guys, so they don't really like our town too much. But we'll get into all that. But we do have on the line with us some guys that have been making some noise, whether it be here locally with RYSE Wrestling or up in Cleveland with AIW. We got a crew with us today. We have Derek Direction and Dr. Daniel Rockingham with us today.
Yes, sir. How are you?
You are the second doctor I've talked to this evening. I'll let you know.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Who was the first?
Dr. Matthew White in Erie. He does game design.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah. I'm sure you see.
That's not a human doctor, so I mean,
Yeah. I'm sure you see him at the mixers, So
Dave was a proctologist. No, I'm a psychologist. Psychologist. I'm minor on water basket weaving. All right, come on.
Everybody's got to get through and get their credits, right? But anyways, so you guys, we do a little of an icebreaker here on the show here for maybe people that don't know you yet. So what is your earliest memory of professional wrestling?
Me? Let's go first. Honestly, I remember watching a little bit in the late 90s, early 2000s with my cousins, but I really didn't start watching it till Eddie Guerrero won the WWE title. Watching that SmackDown where he first had the title was the first actual wrestling memory I have.
That's awesome. Well,
I'm really weird, and so when I was young, my dad used to take me to all the Cleveland Indies. So I'm an only child, so that's how I bonded with my dad through professional wrestling, and it led me to this point right now in my life.
So you just grew up in the game.
Student of the game.
So how did you guys go from and Derek, I think it's probably going to be obvious for you, but how did you go from watching it, being fans of it, at what point did you say, hey, I want to get in the ring and do this thing?
I remember I used to go to all the AIW shows when I was a child, and it was just to the point where I was I want to train. So I asked John Thorne and Chandler Biggins where I could train, and they didn't have a school, so they sort of directed me to Jeff Traxler from Mega Wrestling. And I remember hitting up Traxler, and he told me to come to this old beat down YMCA, and I had a tryout, and now I'm here.
Awesome. What about you, Dr. Dan?
I was 18 and I was about to train. I actually messaged PWO, and I forget what email. I wish I can go back and find it now, who they sent me to. But I actually chickened out and never followed through, just the typical stories that everyone's this guy asked about wrestling in school, but he never followed through. And it took me a couple of years. I retired from rugby. I played that, for all Ohio teams across the country. And then I realized I always wanted to do something. I like physicality, and I needed something to get back in shape. So I picked professional wrestling and kind of just spiraled from there.
Wow. So rugby is kind of a really physical sport. Did that kind of prepare you for the impact kind of physicality of pro wrestling?
It's actually a common misconception because rugby is actually a lot safer than your normal American football. It's actually more controlled. Yeah, it's got no pads, and sometimes you take some hits to the head or anything like that. But at the end of the day, it's actually a safer game because no one's coming from your blind spot. But it's pretty grueling, but it's not it's not as dangerous as like most people think.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So, getting into it, was there anything that kind of caught you by surprise in the training world?
Honestly, I thought it would have been a lot more of the, like with AIW, it's not with the training school. It's like when Chandler and John, and then Johnny and Candace were the head, like were like the mainstays. It goes, I thought it would have been a lot worse, and like you always see like the hazing and stuff like that, and like AIW is not like that. It's more of a come in, get your stuff done, work hard, and it goes, that was really what it was. There was nothing crazy or out of the ordinary about it, which I was happy with, but because I know there's other places that are like that still, but I'm very happy where I am now.
That's awesome. What about you, Derek?
I had like a barrage of people who helped train me, but it's just, anybody, it's not ballet in there. You go out there, it's a wrestling ring.
That's awesome. Coming in, and Derek, how long have you been wrestling? You're the longer of the two.
Yeah, I've been wrestling around like 5 years.
Mm-hmm. And I know I've seen you in the area with VOW for a bit. I think at the time teaming with Dylan Bostic.
Yeah.
Right. So you've been an interesting story because you were here, did some stuff, and after a while, I heard like Derek Direction has kind of found his place, and check him out, and seen you pop up here in RYSE and everything. Can you talk about that journey a little bit and kind of where you're at now?
It's a weird journey. So I want to say when I first started and made my way to Pittsburgh, I was a little too cocky for my britches, or too big for my britches, and a little too cocky. Mm-hmm. And I sort of learned along the way that wrestling's supposed to be fun, and that's what I'm having right now. I'm having a lot of fun wrestling, and it seems to be doing just well for me, especially like with AIW and whatnot.
That's awesome. And of course, part of the production, Magnum CK, I'm familiar with. I'm not terribly familiar with the rest of your crew up there, but I know about every month when I hear there's an IIW show, usually I'm seeing social media about what the production has done this month.
Yeah, so the group right now, it's me and Magnum. The leader's Frankie Flynn, and we have a tag team of Donovan Danhausen, who's from Detroit, and another one of originally he was trained with Ricky Shane Page, where I was trained, but he's like an AIW student now, Eddie Only. So it's like us five, we're the production, and we're just trying to plaster social media as much as we can.
Tell us a little bit, for those that aren't familiar, about like what you guys are doing up there. What's kind of the philosophy for you guys as a group up there?
So as of right now, it's a 5-man group, and we're it's originally was like theater driven, mm-hmm. because Frankie Flynn has a degree in theater, right? And as you know, Magnum CK is he works in theater.
Yeah, I think he directs as well now, right?
Yeah, it just fits. You know what I mean? So it's like we're theater guys. It's sort of evolved for me where I'm like a skeezy director. And then, like, the other guy, we have Donovan Danhausen's a writer, mm-hmm. which realistically he does. And Eddie Only is a stagehand because in real life he's a rock and roller. And he is on the stage 90% of the time.
So it sounds like we're going back to the Attitude Era idea of just turn up everything that everybody is in real life.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's awesome. And speaking of Dr. Dan, I got it. So I'm looking at the card, and one of the first times I was at RYSE Wrestling, and I heard about this Dr. Dan guy, and I'm like, what is this guy about? And there's a PowerPoint presentation, which
yes.
We're big fans of PowerPoint presentations in professional wrestling here on this show when we're doing the 205 Live show. But also, I have had this pamphlet in my studio ever since that show, I believe. Which is, for guys on audio, Change Your Life, Rule Number 1 with Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham. This is fantastic. You come out on one of those hoverboard deals that everybody hates these days.
Yep. Not exploding one, mind you.
Not an exploding. This is verified. You check the battery on it. This is not one of those like Chinese knockoffs.
Nope, 100% real.
Good. Safety in wrestling, first of all. Tell me a little bit about like this, getting to this point that you have. Listen, most wrestlers don't have literature to accompany their gimmick like this.
You're right. It's just kind of been an evolution of my character and also of me in wrestling. Like, that's my third version of the pamphlet. First, I had, the principles of DCR, dedication, confidence, and respect. And last year, I came out with my new idea, which is rule number 1, which is keep your eye on the ball. And the ball can literally be anything. It could be a goal. It could be a situation. It could be anything. As long as you focus on it or keep yourself aware, there's nothing that can stop you.
That's amazing. What has your response been to this across the board? I've seen it RYSE to great effect.
I've had a situation from people ripping them up and throwing them at me. People have emailed the email on the back.
Oh, yeah. There is a Daniel C. Rockingham, which without the period, that looks like Crockingham, unfortunately, at yahoo.com. You still have a Yahoo address.
I do.
If that doesn't make you a bad guy, heel, I don't know what does.
I'm frugal. I understand the value of the dollar. I don't need to buy my own. If there's already an email account, I don't have to buy my own, web service.
And you've had it for a while because it's still Yahoo.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, obviously. That's awesome. That's great. So you guys, again, you're two guys that have lately, again, I see everywhere on social media, everybody's talking about you. You just came off of, I believe both of you were at AIW Absolution, correct?
Yeah, we were both on.
Correct.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about that, because I've been at one of those a few years ago. I believe it was the year that they had the most expensive 8-man tag ever. With
10-man tag.
10-man tag. That's right. It was more expensive.
The only time that will ever happen where you have a New Japan, Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, WWE, TNA, the Superstars, all under the same match at the same time.
Not to mention people that were about to show up on NXT and tear it up like Johnny Gargano, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Samoa Joe was already signed.
And Alex Daniels.
And Daniels.
Yeah, Alex Daniels. He was kind of the poor odd man out on that, wasn't he? So how did AIW Absolution go this year? I'm seeing some great stuff from it.
Dan has to go first. He had a really good Absolution story. His Absolution story is fantastic.
The scheduled match was Ethan Page versus Matthew Justice.
Mm-hmm. Ethan
Page finally understood my tutelage. I've been trying to explain to him this whole time. And we were going ahead both beating on Matt Justice, and the siren hit, and the fans all hollered and heard Scott Steiner, and next thing you know, I found myself in the midst of a tag match against Scott Steiner.
Amazing. How is Scott?
Terrifying, but also the best.
That's great.
He was super intimidating. He had a black eye.
He had a black eye when he walked in the door, and I'm like, what?
How he got the black eye, we have no idea.
Who, you don't want to see the guy that gives Scott Steiner the black eye, right?
Exactly.
No, not at all.
Yeah. That's amazing. What about you, Derek? How was your Absolution?
I was pretty well. I think, not to toot my own horn, I had the most appearances on Absolution this evening, or that evening. I appeared in a scramble match, which I sadly lost, and I got beat up by Space Monkey.
Oh.
And then later in the evening, I managed Eddie Only and Donovan Danhausen against the Young Studs. And a little bit later from that, I managed Frankie Flynn and Magnum CK, and they picked up the tag team titles for the production.
Nice. I've been seeing a lot of that out there, too.
They beat up, I'm sorry to cut you off, they beat up your boy PB Smooth and Hornswoggle.
What?
Yeah, so they lost their tag titles.
Jeez. My favorite big little tag team on the indies right now.
Over.
Yeah. Done. They didn't break up afterwards, did they?
No.
Good. I'm worried about what I'm worried about what Swoggle would do to PB Smooth.
Beat him up.
That's fantastic. You guys, of course, are involved up here with RYSE Wrestling here and there. Of course, Derek, you're going to be, as of this recording, not by the time you guys hear this on release, involved this weekend. You've been here. I had some stuff with the title belt. Got out of Lee Moriarty's hands for a while. Tell me a little bit about working with this. It's a newer promotion here in the greater Pittsburgh area that you guys have been involved with.
So Brandon K is a saint. I've met him when he was wrestling for PWX, and I had my little cup of coffee in PWX. Brandon K, he reminds me of Jerry Lynn, so I always thought he was like the man. But he started his own promotion, him with the help of Marcus Mann, and Marcus Mann's another guy that I just love to hate, but love him, like if that makes sense. So they brought me out to Pittsburgh, or brought me back to Pittsburgh, and I told them that I wanted to bring some of the AIW kids with me, and that's what led us here. Like, RYSE is a good platform for us, that we think it's a good home of Pittsburgh.
That's awesome. There's a lot happening, I think, in both Pittsburgh and Cleveland. It seems like both areas are pretty much on the rise, no pun intended with a Y, as far as promotions are going these days. What is it, do you think, that's happening here with both areas? Is it just like the local talent, or is it just kind of riding this indie wrestling fever pitch lately?
Personally, I think wrestling's at an all-time high right now because there's just a whole bunch of new hungry talent rolling in. And the new hungry talent is sort of pushing out the old talent. And, I mean, no one likes change, but when you have a whole bunch of young guys that are hungry and willing to make drives and put in the work and train, I mean, it's just all for the best. Pro wrestling should be fun. If it's not fun, why are you doing it?
Yeah, because and there's a bunch of guys that are locally. Like, if you look at the Cleveland area, you've got myself, Derek, Dominic Garini. You've got guys like that are traveling, like, trying to make their names. And just like with, like, Lee in Pittsburgh and, the school over at IWC and the school at RYSE with all those, different wrestlers that are all actually out there trying to make a name for themselves. No matter how big or small the promotions they work for, they're still out there getting their reps. And, if they're in front of 5 people or if you're in front of a pay-per-view crowd of thousands, it doesn't matter. As long as you're getting those reps in, eventually it'll blow up, and you'll get yourself prepared for the moment that you need it to be.
Just be a good human being, and
just be a good human.
Pay off.
That has been a big thing. We talked about that a lot with Marcus and the guys that did Stomp Out Cancer a few weeks ago in this past month on this show. Like, it seems like there's a big positivity move in indie wrestling, especially in these areas.
That was always the Johnny Gargano rule at the school. Just be a good human, and everything eventually works out for itself.
Definitely.
I mean, like, I just look at it, like, if you hate wrestling so much, and if you're bitter towards it, what's it getting out of you? It's nothing. It's just going to physically drain you. I mean, wrestling doesn't owe you a thing. You get as much out of it as you want, as you put into it.
That's awesome. So what are you guys getting inspired about? Is there anything maybe that you're seeing on the indies or you're seeing on TV that is either inspiring you or has your attention that people should be looking out for?
If you're asking for a person, I love Lee Moriarty. Lee needs to be everywhere. I'm trying to, every week I tell him, hey man, come on down to the IW school, or come on down, anywhere. Lee needs to wrestle everywhere. I can't put him over enough. Him and Duke Davis. Duke Davis is 50 years old, but he's the man. He's actually, I think he has to be 7 foot tall, and he's just another good human being. I love those two guys. I look forward to seeing them every month when I come to Pittsburgh, even no matter how old Duke Davis is.
What about you, Dr. Dan?
If you're talking about guys on the indies that I'm looking at, it goes, I know it sounds silly, but I look up, he's younger than me, but I look up to a guy like Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF, who's absolutely killing it everywhere he's going. And that's one of the people that I confide in and ask about for advice. And yeah, but he's also been wrestling longer than I have, even though he's much younger. It goes, it's just guys like that, like him and Ethan Page, and guys with
Mance Warner.
Mance
is another good dude.
It's just trying to find guys with I really wanted to be Lucha Libre, AJ Styles, jump off the top rope guy, but I've learned that there's 1,000 guys that do it better than me, so I might as well make goofy faces and have fun with my character, and that's what I do best. So I just have to keep doing what I do.
And as an aside on that, if people have not caught on the MJF bandwagon, he's a part of Dojo Pro that we've been talking about recently on the show. That's kind of my first big look at what MJF can do. So go find his episode at least and watch that, and you'll like between the interview and the match, you kind of get what the deal is with MJF. So
Another guy from Dojo Pro that I like that I'll throw out and I look up to is Kevin Koo.
Yep.
Kevin Koo's a good dude.
And down south, the Carnies too.
Yeah, the Carnies as well.
Nick Iggy and Kerry Awful.
yeah,
Other great guys that have helped instrumental actually with
Both of us.
me and Derek's growth in the past couple years.
They taught us how to be marketable. If you look at a Carnies merchandise booth, they have
you'll know.
everything from cozies to I don't know they were selling book bags last time I saw.
Really?
Coffee mugs.
Yeah.
Jeez, it seems like merchandising is the conversation of the day here. When we've been talking to a lot of guys in the last just 2 days of our interview recordings. So what are you guys? What's the best and worst thing about indie wrestling for you guys so far in your careers?
The best thing about indie wrestling for me is just I don't know, seeing everyone have fun. It's great. I set little goals for myself, and when I accomplish them, it's the best. The worst? What's the worst?
Because that I honestly can't pick anything for worst because it's like the camaraderie and all that. Because like you could say the time in the car is the worst, or you could say this or that, but that's where you get your camaraderie with all your the people you travel with, and that's like the best part about it is because you can go from place to place with a handful or one person, or it just depends on.
The best. I think camaraderie.
Yeah,
camaraderie. I listened to Dr. Dan sing all the words to every Lonely Island song. It's probably hilarious. Or Dr. Dan giving me shit for putting ketchup on mozzarella sticks.
Yeah, like our buffalo sauce. Like what?
I'm really white trash, so I use ketchup on mozzarella sticks.
This is great. What's your favorite Lonely Island song, Dr. Dan?
I'm on a Boat is always the classic.
Of course.
Because that was, but Lazy Sunday won because I actually remember when that was like the first viral video. It's because I was like, that's right when I started like actually watching SNL, and I was like, you know what, this is awesome, and nothing can ever top the first one.
That's awesome. Hey guys, where can people typically find you? What groups are you usually working with, and where can people find you online to find out where you're ending up and when?
For me, I am usually found at Alpha One Wrestling in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. They've just expanded with a couple different places in Colborne and Oshawa as well. So those are 3 different cities they work. AIW, Mega Championship Wrestling, UXWA in Cleveland. At times, CWF Mid-Atlantic.
The one goes with Robbie.
Modern Vintage Wrestling. Because I always joke that I've wrestled for like Punk Pro in Orlando, and then all the way over to PWCS in St. Louis. So that's about my triangle of places, and
Nice.
Southern Underground Pro as well.
Nice. And online?
At Dan C. Rockingham on Twitter, and my email danielcrockingham@yahoo.com.
Wait. Hold on. I gotta get that right here for you guys on video. Right there, like on the back of you can screen cap this. There you go. I might scan this to post with the podcast. What about you, Derek?
Obviously, Absolute Intense Wrestling in Cleveland. I wrestle for Mega Championship Wrestling in Elyria, Ohio, or Mega Wrestling.
Yep.
I wrestle for, obviously, RYSE Wrestling in Pittsburgh, or Lamont Furnace, whatever you want to call it. Black Label Pro in Indiana, which is a really big promotion that's on the rise. And Southern Underground Pro in Tennessee.
Jeez.
I'm just trying to make the rounds, We wrestled at Freelance not too long ago.
Yeah. Well, we always joke that if it's within 8 hours on a Sunday, we'll go to it and do it.
Apparently. That's awesome. I didn't know how widespread you guys were getting out there, and that's good to see. And online?
Derek _Direction. Some weirdo has Derek on Twitter. Some weirdo has Derek Direction, and they just post nothing but One Direction, lyrics. Yeah.
That's
sorry.
goals, man. I don't know what
It's terrible.
sorry.
So Twitter /Derek _Direction. And that's my pro wrestling tees username too, so I have a lot of shirts.
Get it out there. Thank you so much, guys. Looking forward, as of this recording again, I know I'm going to see you, Derek, this weekend at RYSE Wrestling. Please check out all that stuff, and you can look these guys up over at IndyWrestling.us and Smart Mark Video as well for the AIW stuff, and I'm sure half those promotions are up there as well. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in the chat room live. Again, check out the events over on the Wrestling Mayhem Show and IndyWrestling.us Facebook pages to see what interviews may be coming up. And until next time, please support indie wrestling and self-help gurus. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.